Let's bring Dale Vince into the conversation now. Thanks for coming on, Mr. Vince. Have you got a conflict of interest here? Good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Nick. No, I don't think that I do, actually. Although, lots is made of this and potential conflicts and that kind of stuff. Let's say in the last week, at least, anyway, it's been a hot topic in UK media. But I don't feel I have a conflict of interest.
What of Sakir and his view that Just Stop Oil at times can be arrogant and indeed wrong? Those are his words, not mine, Dale.
Yeah, I heard them. I repeat your question. What of it?
OK, let's talk a little bit about last week. You offered to match over a 48-hour period whatever funding was raised for Just Stop Oil. You've now got to find £170,000, if my research is correct, to a total of £340,000. Why do you feel so committed to this, Dale?
Well, I feel committed to the environment cause, Nick. I've been concerned about it since the early 90s when I dropped back in. I was a traveller living on the road. I dropped back in to build a big windmill. I started the world's first green energy company, eco-tycoon, in 95. And it's bothered me greatly since then. And I've dedicated the last 25, 30 years to pursuing solutions in the big fields of life, energy, transport and food, where 80% of everybody's personal carbon footprint occurs. And energy was the biggest cause of climate emissions in our country back in the early 90s. Today, it's the second biggest, but it's still very important that we make the move to renewable energy as quickly as possible.
You support their goals. Do you support their tactics?
Maybe not everything that they do, but it doesn't matter to me. It's the same with the Labour Party. I support the Labour Party. I want them to win the next election very much. I think it's the most important thing for our country. This is the most important election in my lifetime. But I don't have to agree with every Labour policy to feel that way. I mean, nobody gets to vote for a party that they feel perfectly aligned with, I believe. It's a best fit type thing, but I think Labour are by far the best choice for our country. And I think Just Stop Oil, they're doing a fantastic job in raising this issue because, we're constantly talking about the climate crisis and the issue of not drilling for new oil and gas in UK media. And that's a really important thing. We shouldn't be doing it. It's a crazy thing to do in the teeth of a climate crisis.
I saw you shrug a little bit when I asked you about tactics. Dale, which are the ones that perhaps you have an issue with?
There's nothing in particular.
Slow walking, closing down a bridge if someone's got to get across it to a hospital or a job appointment or a job interview, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing that the media make much of, the theoreticals. What if somebody is in an ambulance stuck in traffic? What if this? What if that? But Nick, for me, the bigger harm is in the background. Last year, we experienced incredibly hot temperatures across Europe. They were definitely driven by the climate crisis. 40,000 people lost their lives, Nick. And this kind of stuff is happening around the world. We saw the massive flooding in Pakistan. Millions of people made homeless. They lost lives or homes and livelihoods. And this is driven by the climate crisis, which is driven by fossil fuels. And to pull more out of the ground in the face of all that we know is so reckless. It's incredible.
Even disrupting a sustainable garden at Chelsea Flower Show, Dale?
No, I know. What you going to do?
Well, hopefully you're going to condemn it, Dale.
Obviously, I'm not. The first thing these guys did, right? I gave them some money over a year ago. The first thing they did was disrupt the Premier League football game. I had no idea they were going to do that. And then next thing you know, I'm on TalkSport talking about it and having to declare to the guys, actually, I funded that. I didn't know they were going to do it. But had I known, it wouldn't have made any difference. I mean, these guys are masters at disruption. And I think it's very hard to have an effective protest without disruption. And, it's not a perfect world.
Do you have much contact with them, Dale?
No, I wouldn't say that I have. We did speak last week. We'd been meaning to for a couple of weeks. And then we spoke just off the back of the big Daily Mail front page where they called me an eco-funding zealot or something. I don't know what it was. And I thought, you know what? I'll flick the V's to the Daily Mail here and I'll double down. I'll do some funding with Just Stop Oil. So that's what I did.
If they need cash, do they just pick up the phone to you?
Sometimes it feels that way. Sometimes it feels like the whole world just picks up the phone to me when they need cash, Nick, because I give money to an awful lot of causes, not just the two that we're talking about here today.
Indeed, you do. You do put your money where your mouth is. Let's move away from Just Stop Oil. What level of regular conversations, do you have with Sakir, Dale?
In my life, I've spoken to him, I think, twice on the phone. Once was the week before last, as I told the Today programme, and the other time would have been some months before that. It's quite amusing because I told 6 million people that I'd spoken to him last week briefly, just a chat. And the Sun came out with a headline the next day saying a secret meeting had been discovered. And bless the Sun, that's how they roll.
Why do you suppose your calls and your actions attract this level of attention from certain quarters of the media?
That's a good question, Nick. I think last week was a very quiet news week because it's not the first time this issue has come up before. It wasn't brand new. I think also I'm prepared to come on shows like yours and other people's and just talk. And I talk from the heart. I tell the truth. I don't hide from any questions or any issues. And maybe that's a rare thing. I don't really know. But here we are.
You made pretty plain your contempt for the current government. Just spell it out. What is it that you find, if I can use this word, and I wouldn't be able to put words in your mouth anyway, what is it you find so reprehensible about them?
Well, we've had 13 years of Tory rule so far. Several unelected prime ministers. If you look at the record on the climate crisis, we've signed up to the Paris Accord to keep global temperatures down to 1.5 degrees and all that kind of stuff. They say all the right things, but they do all the wrong things. Opening a new coal mine in Cumbria, drilling for oil and gas in the North Sea, expanding runways and a 26 billion road building program, while maintaining the ban on onshore wind, our cheapest, fastest, cleanest form of energy that's available to us. It needs no public money. So that's on the climate. But look around the rest of our country. NHS is on its knees, record levels of poverty, the use of food banks, the cost of living crisis, wherever you look. I think the Tories have spent the last 13 years more obsessed with fighting each other than they have been with fighting the problems this country is facing.
Many trade unions have spoken out against Sir Keir's plans to end all new oil and gas drilling. There's a debate that will, of course, cost jobs. What's more important, jobs or the environment, Dale?
First, I want to say, what kind of world do we live in where the government and the unions agree with each other? That's not right, is it? That's not normal. Right. Then to your question, we create more jobs for every pound spent on renewable energy than we do on oil and gas. That's a matter of fact. And so it isn't a choice between jobs and the environment. That's a false choice. With the environment, we get jobs. There's an enormous economic opportunity for us in going 100% green powered.
And finally, there's a report today that some of the plans from Labour could add an additional £1,000 on people's tax bills. All right, you're a supremely successful bloke now. You haven't always been. You'll remember the times when £1,000 would have seemed unattainable to you, Dale Vince. What do you say to people now who could be faced with that hike in their tax bills each year?
Yeah, firstly, I doubt the report is accurate. Where did it come from, Nick?
This comes from, This comes from Treasury Analysis.
And that's interesting.
Yeah.
From the government, in effect.
Well, I mean, they would say it's civil servants, but yes, it is the Treasury that is working to this government, although the Conservative government would say, of course, they are the independent civil servants. But back to you, Dale.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, look what happened when this government froze tax allowances recently. It's made millions of people worse off. Tax allowances have been frozen while cost of living has soared. People are thousands and thousands of pounds worse off than when this government came into power. Earnings are down, at the lowest level of growth for like decades. So I think £1,000 sounds cheap compared to this Conservative government, actually, if it's true.
All right. And the final question. Forest Green Rovers, remind my listeners, you are the chairman. You have the opportunity to sign but a Lionel Messi who will transform the fortunes of your club that cruelly had a rough season. But you can't get there on time because you're the wrong side of the bridge. You don't get there to sign this player, and Barnsley FC, who came in on a different train, do. How do you feel about Just Stop Oil then, Dale Vince?
It's a nice theoretical. Here's another one for you. Like we don't tackle the climate crisis, and all football clubs become unable to play football due to extreme weather events. We lose half our games in a season to rain or snow.
Well, what happened to Carlisle a couple of years ago? Do you remember Carlisle went completely under the water a couple of years ago? So every ground in the land is effectively waterlogged.
Yeah, these events. Genuinely, Nick, this is happening. We have drains under our pitch, which we're having to upgrade because they're not fit for the climate crisis that we're currently experiencing. They have been fit for decades, and they're not anymore. We are inundated periodically by the big rain.
Good luck next season. I hope you have a better one. Thanks for your time. Dale Vince, who, just to remind everyone, is chairman. Thanks, Dale. Is chairman of Forest Green Rovers, but in this conversation really is founder of eco-tycoon, which allows him to put his money where his mouth is with both Just Stop Oil and the Labour Party. Extended interview, 9:35, news headlines on LBC, Lottie Morley.